All right, hello everyone. This is Crota giving you an update on some BattleNet precursor notes that David Kim has recently sent out. It's probably been on the forums for about a day or so. If you guys don't read or look over the forums, that's why you subscribe to me. Now, even though there are no hardcore numbers here, wow, don't run up the stairs and try to start casting. Even though there are no hardcore numbers here, which I do like to examine, it does at least show us what direction Blizzard is trying to take the game. And with the direction that Blizzard is currently trying to take the game, I must breathe a sigh of relief, as it's also some of the issues that I've been finding with the game in my own personal play and in my own frustrations as well. Now, let's take a look at Terran, Zerg, and Protoss, and we'll go down the line just pretty much reading through this, and I'll give you my thoughts. If you guys want to say I'm right or I'm wrong, please feel free to leave comments. We can have a little bit of discussion. Also, follow me on Facebook if you want to contact me, as sometimes I can't go through all of my comments, but I do check my Facebook pretty often as well. Just search Crota. First of all, the redesigning of the Thor ability is something that is absolutely necessary. The Thor's the 200mm strike cannon is so rarely used that it's almost inconsequential in terms of damage and in terms of any sort of spell. What I would like to see is perhaps the Thor being able to cast an AoE spell that reduces armor. That type of ability, I think, like just some sort of shelling attack that has a debuff on units that reduces armor, would really add something for the Thor to be used alongside Marines. I'm not saying that I want mass Thors to beat mass Colossi. That shouldn't be the case. But I do think that the Thor should have an effect that or have some sort of zone effect that gives an area of control for Terran players. Protoss players and Zerg players already have fungal growth. They have Psystorm, they have the new Oracle ability, which are all really good spell casting abilities that is a zone of control where the other opponent can pretty much say, do you want to fight here? I'm going to force you to move. Terran players generally don't have that. They do have siege tanks in terms of zoning and control, but siege tanks have already been pretty easily dealt with the introduction of infested Terrans, with Vipers, and things like that. So another zoning ability for Terran would be really nice. Moving on to the Seeker Missile. Seeker Missile rebalancing definitely needed. One of the reasons why you see where you never see a Raven Seeker Missile against Protoss is the cost of the ability itself. 125 energy means that it's so very close from being feedback killed if you ever want to try to use that ability itself. And High Templars who warp in with 50 energy, being able to one shot kill a unit before it can cast its spell, it doesn't make it a very smart investment for Terran players. Now, moving on, pushing early game a Reaper a little bit more, I don't see this happening. I love the idea of having the Reaper being a very good early game unit. The problem is Mothership Core and Queen. We've already seen, or in my experience, I've already seen Reaper has completely shut down one Rax expand or Command Center first in Terran versus Terran. Reaper is going to be used in that matchup just because it is such a strong unit early on, being able to heal, being able to force units off the mineral line, and it gives the person who is going Reaper a little bit more of an advantage early on, since they have that tech lab and have that earlier gas. They can do a little bit more manipulation while trying to limit the economic advantage that a fast expanding Terran would normally do. Now, Hellbats better against melee units. This is something that I would like to see as well. And I think what they're going to do, or hopefully what they're going to do, is they're going to increase the damage of Hellbats when they, but give them a shorter range. That way, they're actually those up in front units that deal a lot of damage to Zealots, to Zerglings, but not necessarily good against, say, Stalkers. The only question I really have about this then is, what about those hybrid units where, like Roaches, Archons, those types of units? Roaches and completely roaches are almost a hybrid unit of melee and range, where they do have a range attack, but it's so short and you generally mass so much of them like zerglings that it almost feels like a melee unit, doesn't it? All right, moving on to 4 medevac usage. They want to see more medevac usage. I think this has to do with 4 and 5. If you put them together, then it makes more sense. Buffing bio in the late game, Terran bio simply melts extremely quickly because their upgrades do not scale with, say, Colossi, and they do not and their upgrades do not protect against Psystorm and fungal growth. So a 3/3 Colossus is much more effective than a 0/0 Colossus against 3/3 Marauder versus a 0/0 Marauder, or a 3/3 Marine versus a 0/0 Marine. And it really, really shows in the later game when everyone has their higher upgrades and the Marine is only still doing perhaps 5 damage per attack when the Colossi are doing, what is that, 15, 16, 17, 18, 36 damage per attack as opposed to 30. You really start to see the difference there. Now, buffing mech in general, this is something, and I like it at the point that they are very specific here. Buffing mech in general, combining vehicle upgrades and air upgrades. This is something that I would love to see, just because Terran players have no real way of switching between air and mech that easily. By actually combining these upgrades, it may sound a little bit unfair, but think about it this way: the Colossus benefits from the same ground upgrades as a Zealot, and they're built from 2 completely different buildings. There's nothing like that in Terran at all. All the factory units share the same upgrades. All the barracks units share the upgrades. All of the starports share the same upgrades. In fact, shield upgrades cover all 3. They cover your robotics facility, they cover your gateway, and they cover your Stargate. So that's a little bit of overlapping that I would like to see. Now, I realize that this particular video is already a little long, so I'm going to cut it short here. I'm also going to be making one for Zerg and Protoss. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And I hope you guys continue on to the Zerg and Protoss reviews.